Hi there, and welcome back to another edition of ScaleUp Radio, the podcast inspired by the Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System and designed to make navigating our scale-up journeys that little bit easier by learning from others' experiences. I'm Kevin Brent, and this week on the show, I'm joined by Robert Simpson. And Robert is the resilient, and you'll find out how resilient, founder of RDS Innovations. From being a car phone installer to an ingenious inventor, Robert's journey is nothing short of inspiring. And after a life-changing accident, a crime show sparked his first invention, leading him down the path of patents and intellectual property protection. And we drill into that a little bit in the discussion. And he's faced all sorts of challenges like funding shortages, regulatory hurdles, and Robert's perseverance shines through. We dive into his innovative creation of forensic door alarms designed to enhance safety for domestic violence victims and his collaboration with Innovate UK to bring these vital products to market. So make sure you don't miss any future episodes by subscribing to ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcast. You can also nominate a guest for ScaleUp Radio if you know someone with a really interesting scale-up story like Robert's. And you can find out how in the show notes. So listen on and join us as we explore Robert's journey of overcoming obstacles, his lessons learned in the world of innovation, and his future aspirations. Get ready for an episode filled with inspiration, resilience, and groundbreaking ideas. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm delighted today to be joined by Robert Simpson, who is the founder of RDS Innovations. So, Robert, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin, and thank you for inviting me on.
Absolute pleasure to have you on. So, tell us about RDS Innovations. What's that all about?
RDS Innovations is a millennium company. You know, we're going to go back a few years. So, it was established in the year 2000. And it's a registered holding company for granted intellectual property rights with regards to ideas that I've had developed and patented globally. So I've got patents in the United States, China, Japan, Australia, South Africa, and we are patent pending in the United Kingdom and the EU with regards to forensic-based door alarms.
Okay. Sounds absolutely fascinating. So I've got a whole list of questions. I'm sure they're going to come up around patents because a lot of us have dabbled with it or maybe want to and don't quite understand anything about it. And it sounds like you're going to be an expert in it then. So that'd be really good.
Well, expert's probably pushing it a little bit, but I'll give it a go.
Well, you know what the definition of an expert is, don't you?
Go on then.
An X is a has-been and a spurt's a drip under pressure. So that's
both of the above.
So there we go. So I know you've got a bit of an interesting backstory as to why you started setting up in the first place. So do you want to just take us back to that? Yeah,
no problems at all. My background, so to speak, at the age of 19, a friend of mine said, yeah, I mean, I used to work for an auto electrician as a Saturday job, so I knew my way around the car's electrics with regards to stereo installations, alarm installations, changing of alternators and dynamos, anything electrical. Mm-hmm. And one day he said to me, he said, yeah, you know about car electrics, don't you? I said, yeah. He said, I've got this thing called a radio phone. And I went, what's that? Well, it's a phone that goes in your car. And that's where my journey started back in 1987, 88. And I did that for up until the 31st July 1998. And I would drive around the country, thousands of miles each year, just going around to people's offices and homes addresses, fitting car telephones. I used to strip their car out, put a phone in it and put it back together again and hope it didn't rattle afterwards. Yeah. So that was my job. But on the 31st July 1998, I was involved in a serious road traffic accident. A vehicle pulled out in front of me, causing me to take evasive action. And that evasive action launched the van I was travelling in, and I cartwheeled up the road for about 100 yards and was thrown around the interior cockpit. And Constantine had my spinal column. So the impact of me hitting my head on the roof and then bottoming on the seat sent shockwaves down my spine, and my L4-5 region just obliterated, as did a disc in my neck. And it left me unable to walk for the next 5-6 months. So as you can imagine, as a self-employed person, not working, not earning, laying on my front room floor, watching a lot of television. And I was inspired. I mean, having an engineering background and being able to, pick things apart. I watched an episode of The Bill on UK Gold, and the scene depicted an elderly lady answering a call at her front door. And on approaching that front door, she did all what crime prevention handbooks tell you to do and securely fastened her door security chain. Yep. On approaching the front door, she opened the door to check the identity of the caller. And with one swift kick, the fixings were ripped from the frame and that caller became an intruder.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how the episode ended because I just looked up at the door of my front room and an idea popped into my head. And the idea was based on an automatic door chain. So the thing would do it for you. So as you walk towards your front door, this unit, which is installed above the top of your door, which is ergonomically pleasing to the eye, looks very nice. It's got an L-shaped armature around the opening leaf. So as you walk towards your door, that L-shaped armature spins round 90 degrees. Right. So when the door is opened, it inhibits the door to open as the same degree as the door security chain. Yeah. And I just thought, what a great idea. In the event of someone giving it a push, it set a house alarm off. So this is where the mind starts working. So in 1998, I spoke to a friend of mine, Neil, who was a alarm installer, and we sat down and we pushed together this box that, that could be built. Now, bearing in mind, what didn't we have in 1999? Well, we didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
So you're relying on a bloke who's an alarm engineer to have an experience of products that you require to install into this device that would make it work. And unfortunately, if you'd actually used the products that were available on the market back then with regards to what was going on in my mind's eye to reality, it would have been the size of a small car.
Right.
I mean, CCTV cameras back in 1999 because the idea was it would record a caller at your front door and it could send images. How was it going to send the images? Yeah. It would be put on a data card. This is where it was back then. Yeah. So as you can imagine, the first patent draft, which was filed back in 2002, was very... it was precise and concise and to the point because you need to cover everything that's in the field, but the actual product is the garden gate when it comes to a patent. So you've got to cover every eventuality just in case somebody comes along at a later date and says, in 1999, there was a company called Smart Water. And I saw
I know some, yeah.
1999, Smart Water was established, which was a forensic trace capability. And I thought, hold on a second, this is another inclusion. We can actually put this into the patent. And much to their disgust, I got a patent granted. I retained the intellectual property rights for putting a forensic marking fluid at an entry point, which is deployed by a definitive attempt to force unlawful entry.
Okay.
So, you've got these devices which are passively activated. So you've got somebody wearing a button on their wrist, and if they get robbed, when the person's on their way out with the booty, they can push a button and a spray comes down, so it marks them as they're leaving. Yeah. So the police can identify them up to 3 months later. The forensic stain is one-off, which means it's only one of a kind. It's registered to that specific door. So for argument's sake, if that person's going into a nightclub at the weekend or frequenting a bar which uses UV lighting technology, when they walk in, I can demonstrate it for you now. This is a police UV torch, CSI torch, as it's called in America, and it's UV. So turn that on, and if you start squeezing it over my face, get a bit closer, you can see that there's some blue spatter. Is that showing up very well?
Yeah, a little bit. Possibly not great quality on the camera.
On the camera, but if we went into a nighttime environment, it would light up like a Christmas tree, and I'd look like Papa Smurf. It does work. But what I did is I incorporated into a patent, and that's it and all about it. But I licensed it for manufacture to a company based up in Manchester, and it was extremely difficult based on the fact there's no criteria set for putting a device like that above a door. It was like red tape after red tape after red tape, and time went by, and I'm based on the fact that I'm disabled. I had nothing else better to do. I spent the early noughties learning how to use a computer, sending emails to the likes of ADT and Chubb, with a CD-ROM or floppy disk.
Yeah.
getting a couple of mates who were in the computer business to put a couple of virtual animations together.
Yeah.
This is the idea. What do you think? Because of the amount for R&D and the amount of criteria which would need to be established to pass it through to be sold to the public, it's sort of like died a death.
Right.
And also the component parts required. Now, in 2009, 10, I think it was, life was going on, products were being invented, but I came across this product. Now, this product is a personal attack alarm, forensic-based. They gave it to nurses on a National Health Service, and this is registered to the user. So if you look at the bottom of the canister, there's a barcode.
A barcode, yeah.
Yeah, that barcode is registered to the end user in the event of that person having to use that alarm, which will run at 138 decibels. So it creates an idea that you've got a problem, but at the same time, you throw it at the person who's attacking you or spray it on them if you can. I mean, there's a lot of things you're supposed to be doing when someone's attacking you. And I don't know whether people have got the wherewithal to do it, but if you have, this is what you're supposed to do. So you spray it around, you get it on yourself, you'll get it on them, you get it on maybe people that are there, witnesses for argument's sake. And for argument's sake, he runs away, has it away on his toes. Up to 3 months later, if he was arrested for anything else, in police custody areas now, they have UV suites where they'll process people looking for smart water, trace tag, ADNAS. There's other products around the country. There's 5 altogether, and another main one is Selector DNA. So they will then get swabbed. That swab is sent off for analysis, and the analysis comes back with that code.
Yeah.
And that code is registered to somebody. So we can now put that person who's standing in front of the person who deployed that canister.
Yeah.
You can manufacture a crime scene with this.
Right.
if you wanted to, and this is one of the things that's everybody's gone about: secured by design, police approval, getting it into police forces. So what I did is, when I saw that, I just thought, well, I'll tell you what, and I might as well show you. But I looked at that can, and I'll just put it together. This idea popped into my head.
Okay, so you've now got a door chain attached to something similar. So presumably the canisters in that container. Exactly.
You put the can inside that. You put that to your door frame. You've got that fitted to your clasp. Yeah. You use it when checking the identity of a caller, and at the same time you can put it on overnight. So if anybody kicks your door in or tries to force entry through your door, it's another layer in the onion of security protection for your home. But it'll set off a 138 decibel alarm. That alerts the neighbours and passers-by you've got a problem at your front door. But at the same time, it sprays the attacker or attackers with a forensic marking fluid. Yeah. With that code registered to your door at your house.
Yeah.
Now, if you think of the number 1 and you put 59 zeros after it, that's how many forensic codes there are. Okay. So you're talking about infinity. So you could actually fit these to every single door in the world, and you still have codes left over. And you can actually denote the door. You can put it on a front door, a back door, patio door, a safe room, anything you like. But the forensics is there, and it will stain the attacker, and then later on you can ID them. So I had that idea, filed a patent application, and then thought, great idea. I can actually sell that and finance the other one moving forward. And it was just very, very restrictive. It was just like a totally new and innovative product, which has been designed more often than it's for burglary deterrent. Because if you think in a burglar's mindset, they don't want to get caught. So if they see that you've got a forensic alarm at your front door, are they going to attack your front door, or are they going to go to a house next door that hasn't got one? Mm-hmm. So this is the idea behind the product. It's a deterrent. But at the same time, it eases the fear associated with doorstep crime. So this was me, Mr. Naive. So I set up a business called Strand DNA with a friend of mine who used to run my book as a car telephone engineer. And we've got about 224 approved installers now nationwide. But when Brexit came along, we had a bit of a problem with the evacuant that's used in this is called tetrafluoroethane.
Right.
And that became restricted to sell. So I'm now working with Innovate UK Edge, I've got all these guys sitting to one side because one of the main things that did become apparent through the sale of the product to police forces, I mean, it wasn't really sold as a retail product because it can't be installed as a DIY item.
All right.
Okay, it needs to be installed by a locksmith or another security professional, somebody who's registered, Master Locksmiths Association or BSIA accreditation, somebody who's not got a criminal record and who can be reasonably relied on in court. Because if the device is activated, I need to denote that device was manufactured on this day. It was installed on this day by this approved installer who's received a training course in how to do it, and it sat there for 18 months and then it went off. So you've got an A to B to C to D. So you've got a chain of evidence.
Yeah. Because
the moment that chain of evidence breaks down, matey boy walks away. So it needs to be 100%, which has been restrictive trying to get people interested in becoming suppliers. But let's say there's 224 approved installers nationwide. And since we've had a problem with COVID and lockdown, domestic violence, you won't believe the amount of units that have been deployed by police forces throughout the UK in domestic violence applications. And I've actually been out on task with various police forces nationwide. I mean, as a disabled person, I find it difficult. I can't do the installation work, but I can sit around and watch. And, these people I've got who are mates of mine, I've said, yeah, what do you reckon on that? This is how you fit it. So I'm watching them do it, and I'm there just as PR. But it's just the domestic violence. I mean, I would say 90% of the 2,000 I'd manufactured are installed in domestic violence applications because the forensics puts the attacker at the crime scene so the victim doesn't have to. So it would be me standing up in court saying, he's got that forensic trace on him. That forensic trace is registered on a Loss Prevention Council standard database to that address. And on the evening of this night, that device went off, spraying the contents onto the homeowner or the woman living in fear, anybody that went past the door, but we can place him there. And if he's got a 500-yard or a 2-mile or a 5-mile abatement order away from that address, he's banked the rights.
Now, it sounds like a really good invention. So I'm just a little bit unclear from the commercialization point of view. So where are you with that as a business?
Well, the commercialization right now is I was contacted by I wrote a thing to Innovate UK Edge about 18 months ago, and I was contacted by Representative Neville Snell, who came and saw everything because I've got a pre-production sample of the automatic one, and I've got this device. And I would say if it wasn't for him and Innovate UK Edge and the DTI, I'd be floating down the river by now, face down. He's just would have died a death due to the fact that funding is to get, we want it to be manufactured in the UK. I'd love it to be manufactured in the UK, but they were originally manufactured. They'd been manufactured in the UK, bar the chains which came from Spain. But this is when we were members of the EU. Yeah. So I wanted to be manufactured in the UK, and with the assistance of the Innovate UK Edge, the DTI, and we've now gone into cahoots with Selector DNA, who are going to be providing the forensic trace. Okay. So the route to market will be, they're doing a cost-effective study with regards to 5,000 units, how much they'll actually cost to manufacture 5,000 units. We're just getting everything done and dusted, and I've been speaking with the Master Locksmiths Association today with regards to their members becoming forensic alarm installers, but at the same time they would be able to sell the device to their own client base, of course buying it at a trade, selling it at a retail cost. But that would be up to Selector DNA and the way they want to do it, because we've got sales established, or I've got sales established through domestic violence charities. I mean, it's a sick world we live in when you think that but I mean, burglary reduction of the hundreds of devices fitted nationwide, you're looking at they've never once been activated. There's no recorded offences of any of the target hardened addresses. Now, based on the fact they're going into a burglary victim's house because their door's been forced open and items have been stolen. So the police go in there and say, right, we're going to put a forensic door alarm up on the front door. It's just repeat offenders go back to the easy targets.
Yeah. Yeah.
No recorded offences at any of the properties that have had forensic door alarms installed.
So the deterrent element.
The deterrent value is working. I mean, if you look at any literature supplied by Smart Water, Selector DNA, ADNAS. I mean, ADNAS is more cotton-based materials. It goes into product counterfeit. So, you can have a forensic code for Nike. So Nike know that they come off their production line and not somebody else's. So it's a very clever technology, and it's widely used, but it's not very widely publicised because of the fact you want to catch these people doing it, especially like rural areas where CCTV now, if you look at CCTV cameras in London, everybody's moving out of London with regards to crime because everything's covered by CCTV, ANPR. You can't drive around without being looked at, for argument's sake. And if you're a criminal, you don't want to be looked at. So this is why they go rural, and this is why tack rooms, for argument's sake. I've got devices on tack rooms, which are these sheds that have got
for the horses,
tens of thousands of pounds worth of bridles and saddles and everything, and just a normal padlock keeping it locked. But now they've got forensic alarms on the inside, so if somebody forces the door, you've got an alarm and everybody's getting sprayed. And also the contents, if they do force it open, they've got a device that's going off for 4.5 minutes. And the whole time it's going off, it's 4.5 minutes. If you actually time 4.5 minutes at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's a lot of noise taking place for a very long amount of time, which is going to get you looked at. But if they're going to carry out some saddles, they're going to carry out some bridles or wherever it is they want to carry out any stolen property, for argument's sake, it's going to get forensically tagged. So when they're selling it at a show 18 months later, if a police officer walking past shines a UV torch on it, hold on a minute, what's that? And this is how you find stolen property now, using selected DNA marking kits and smart water marking kits. They can put it on lead roofs of churches, lead piping, drain pipes. There's grease, there's gels. But what I've done is I've taken a forensic trace technology, put it in a static environment and given it a definitive attempt to force unlawful entry as an activation point, which means it's a USP.
So tell us about what you've learned about getting patents then, because you reeled off a long list of countries from US, China, Japan,
Get
Australia,
yourself a fantastic patent attorney.
Right.
That's what you need. I initially started with IP21 in Norwich because, going back in the day, I got the University of East Anglia to make the first controller for the automatic version. So we're going back a few years, and 3 students put it as a project. This is because I haven't got the money to go to Asa Abroy and spend hundreds of thousands of pounds. So I was using young minds, and they've done a fantastic job. And Alistair Perrin, who is the brains behind the controller chip, he's a friend today, and he's a RDS Innovations shareholder. Because I didn't have the funds to pay them, I've just given equity away on the business. And this goes back to the virtual animations. And the majority of my funding has been created through friends and family or friends of family. Yeah, I've got a mate who's had an idea, so I've sold equity in the business for various amounts of money because after my car accident, I had a lot of payments that couldn't be made. So I got a lot of CCJs against me, which weren't my fault, which means trying to get to grant-based funding or any funding whatsoever because you've got a CCJ against your name. Yeah. No. But as far as patent attorney is concerned, I was on Dragon's Den, and I had Duncan Bannatyne tell me that that you could download a this was in 2002. He was telling me that I could download a patent form from Patent House and do it myself. My advice to anybody is go and see a patent attorney, get what's going on in your head into their frame of mind and their way of thinking so they can draft something which is precise, concise and to the point. Don't do the do-it-yourself option. I've had people who've done the do-it-yourself option and based on the fact that, I'm an innovations-based technology business and I do help other inventors with their ideas get the best form of covered so you know that your intellectual property rights are your rights and they can't be infringed upon by anybody else because it is very easy to, especially now, to copy other people's stuff and earn a living off them, which isn't very nice. I mean, my business, if anybody was to steal my ideas and they want to put forensic trace in it, they've got to go to one of 5 companies, and all of those 5 companies know me. And if they decided that they were going to supply somebody who's infringed on my IP, that's going to look bad on LinkedIn. Especially when I get teeth into it.
Yeah.
But it's just, patent attorneys. I mean, there's a guy down in Bath. His name is Briar's Law, it's called. If anybody wants to get a really good patent attorney, Briar Law in Bath. I say I started with IP21, but the drive going to and from Norwich, it was killing me. So, we parted ways back a few years ago. But
that sounds like that would be a fairly lengthy and expensive process.
It is very expensive. I mean, you need to get your with regards to funding, because I went into it naive. I was a car telephone engineer that had an idea, and I was thinking to myself that, people sat in his intellectual property office and looked at new filings to see if it was something they'd be interested in. No, they don't. Then you've got to use your wherewithal to get in front of the right people to say, this is my product. This is what it will look like. I just need you to fund me at the end of the day to get it there. But also at the same time, we need to fund intellectual property rights and patent charges and renewals and translations and all sorts. I would advise people just to go for the UK Patent Office. Do not worry about global exploitation unless you're thinking about going into America. But America, they look after their inventors better than what we do.
Right. In what way?
You infringe on US patent law. Yeah. They come for you. Whereas over here, I mean, there's been some infringements that I know about here in the UK, and the patent office. Sorry, and then you've got patent protection and all this other cost that comes out of it at the end of the day. But the idea, if you can keep your idea secret, and if you can go through prototyping on the back of non-disclosure agreements, through your prototyping or R&D, other ideas might become apparent. Now, if you've already filed your patent application based on drawings and not product or prototype, you're taking a very big risk with regards to future payments, because you might come up with a bit of an inventive step that nobody else has thought about whilst you've been developing that.
Yes.
But you've already filed your patent application and you can't make any amendments to it. So now you've got to file another one to include that change. So I would advise people is get yourself a really good non-disclosure agreement and make sure that you're getting and even record meetings that you're having with people. Whether you want to do that covertly or overtly, it's entirely up to you. I do it covertly to everybody who's watching. It's just at the end of the day, you got yourself covered. But it is rapid prototyping, development, and away you go.
Okay. And obviously, the number of years have gone into this. How much money in total do you estimate that it's taken you to get to this stage?
To get me to this stage, you're probably looking over the past 20 years, based on the fact I'm disabled. So I'm living on an income protection policy due to the fact that I'm unable to work in a full or part-time position because of my disability. Yeah. So I'm lucky enough, whereas I've been able to survive because I'm not having to generate an income to earn a living. So I'd say mine and other people's money, about £180,000. But that's in 20 years. I mean, a patent application will cost you $2,500. Yeah. And, then you've got to start looking at what countries you want to go in, and then you've got to pay for translation. I won't worry about that until you actually hit the market running and you've got the ability to start paying for translations at a later date to then look at exploiting your IP or your product in another country. Yeah.
And how much of the business have you had to give away to because you mentioned you've given some equity?
32%.
Okay, so
I retain 68. That's for now. That's going to change in the next couple of months because of what's been going on. But I'm more optimistic now than I've been in the past 20 years. I mean, as far as the automatic ones, I've got a guy that's interested because all you need to do is look at the back of your phone and look at the size of the camera on that. Yeah. You look at any passives now, any deployment systems, spraying conicals and everything else to go along with it. Everything's small enough now that you can get it into a quite aesthetically pleasing to the eye box that goes above the top of your door, or embed it into the door frame itself. So when you're having a replacement door frame installed, you've got an option of having a forensic door alarm installed and CCTV camera. So, you've got Ring doorbell, for argument's sake. You could work it in conjunction so that, you don't want it being used in coercive ways, like some domestic violence charities say that doorbells are a nightmare because husbands keep eyes on their wives when they're at work. So there's a cut-off point. It's just like, these are things that I didn't think about. When I first got into this, it was just like, well, you can spell what a great idea it is, and then someone will come along and say, yeah, but, which is a good thing. It's devil's advocacy. But so what you do is you adapt around that, which is what I've done completely with this. I mean, the automatic one was when someone walks up to your door and rings your doorbell, the armature comes round. Great idea. And then someone says to me, yeah, well, someone comes up and knocks on the door. So now it's passively, then this is what I'm saying about filing your patent, because I can show you first patent draft and and it's totally wrong the way it actually functions now. But if I'd have actually paid for that, it'd cost a fortune.
And in terms of so in terms of that production, you're at the stage where you're getting estimates for that production of sort of 5,000 units. So
Innovate UK have applied for a RTO grant in my name, which has been granted. It's in the process of being done now. What this is going to do is going to work with the Manufacturing Technology Centre in Coventry. Okay. And they're going to actually define a short run 5,000 units. And then you're looking at, based on Mark 1, it won't be a lot of money. The most expensive thing about a forensic door alarm is the forensics. But what I've done is I've actually made it so that you can buy off the shelf. For argument, my idea, I'd like it to be sold off the internet, but at B&Q, at Homebase, at Carrefour in France, at Lowe's in the United States. But inside the packaging, there's a leaflet that says, would you like to upgrade to a forensic trace alarm? And then they would contact Selector DNA, and Selector DNA would inform them of all their criteria with regards to prior sending a canister out so that it could be installed and then registered at that point there. So it takes away the forensic side. So whereas before it used to be just a forensic alarm, we've now cut it down the middle so that you can have a noisy door chain if you want. If you want 130 decibels going off when someone kicks your back door in, then you can fit this yourself. Yeah. But if you're going to want a forensic trace, it's going to have an MLA locksmith come around, check to your installation, and then register it. Probably cost you about another £150. But you're looking at, we were selling the Mark 1 versions for £195 supplied and fitted. Okay. And that's the police forces. But when you start taking the cost of installation out of it, it makes it cheaper. So I actually trained in the UK, they're called CDRPs, Crime and Disorder Reduction Partnerships, and they're charities that are set up which get money to put money into crime reduction in a specific area. So the CDRP, for argument's sake, Duffield Powys Police use Carmarthenshire City Council's Neighbourhood Watch as target hardeners. So if somebody gets burgled, they call them out to go around and do the target hardening, which is, make everything safe or install other security systems, CCTV. So if you train those guys to do it, it reduces the cost of the product by £100. So it makes it far more cost effective. And at the same time, if it costs, taxpayers are paying now about £5,500–6,000 for the investigation of a single burglary. So every time you get burgled, someone calls the police, and the police come out to that house and start looking at CSIs, and they go around and they're taking fingerprints, and the police are doing a 2-week investigation. Before it's even gone to court, it's cost the taxpayer about £5,500 in police man hours for the cars to turn up. Yeah. So if you've got a device that's cost £100 to install and it's deterred a burglary from taking place in the first instance, why not spend £5,000 on rather than spending £5,000 on a burglary, spend £5,000 on buying these devices and put them into a burglary hotspot, which is what Duffield Powys Police did, and reduced burglary in that location by up to 78%. Okay. So it does everything it says on the tin, because you don't want to get covered in this stuff, because if you get it in your hair, you've got to get it cut out. Right. And what was your experience on Dragon's Den? What advice did they give you? Well, I was on the first series. This is 2002. I got a phone call from my intellectual property attorney saying that they'd been contacted by the BBC, and there was this new program coming out called Dragon's Den. So I hadn't looked at anything on the TV before, so I've gone to this location with a pre-production sample. And it's based on the fact that I've got a crushed spine as well. So, I'm having to take a lot of painkillers. So I wasn't very pretty. At the end of the day, I wasn't going to win any awards. But I've gone there on the day and I just didn't get on with Duncan Bannatyne.
He's a prickly character, isn't he?
For some reason, the millionaire bodybuilding ice cream man. But it was. I mean, this is where I was saying about the pan. I mean, it was one of the originals, Peter Jones. He was there. Doug Richards, who was the entrepreneur. And there was a woman from Red Letter Days. We're going right back. So I've given my spiel. I mean, when I told you earlier on about the old lady walking to her front door, on approaching the front door, she did what crime French Hamlets tell you to do. That was my Dragon's Den spiel. And the only retort I had from Duncan Bannatyne was, it's going to be very messy to fit.
Okay.
Going to be very messy to fit. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's going to be very messy to fit. He said, well, someone's got to come around my house and drill holes across the top and it's going to cause a hell of a mess. Yeah. And I just looked at him and I said, well, in England, we've got something called a Hoover. Now, as you can imagine, this is a Dragon's Den format. So you can imagine I'm standing there giving my spiel and I'm talking to him like this. So it's never been on the telly. It's never been broadcast. So I don't know what the coup is. So this bloke's a bit of a wally, as far as everybody's laughing, except for him. And we started then start again and start doing it again. And then he's turned around and he said about, you can download a free application for, file a patent at Patent House for free. Yeah. Do it yourself. And I just said to him, I said, mate, and that's what I said to him. I said, mate, I was a car telephone engineer. I said, you ring me up if you wanted your car phone fitted, not if you wanted your plane done. So that sort of advice isn't the great advice in the world now, is it? I said, go to see an intellectual property attorney, go and see the right people for the right job. Otherwise you're going to risk everything just on the fact of saving yourself a few quid. Yeah. And the woman at Red Letter Days agreed with me, as did Peter Jones. Then my back started playing up because he was being a bit belligerent after that. And I don't give a monkey's about. I never have done about people and money. If you've got £1 million in your pocket, I'll speak to you exactly the same way. If it doesn't bother me. I don't bow and scrape to anybody or anybody apart from my wife.
Of course, yeah.
Goes without saying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But he was just belligerent. I went and laid down that big brown couch. The big brown couch you sometimes see in the background above the big clock. Yes. I was laying down on that, and one of the production people come up to me and started talking to me, and I was, Simpson's a Scottish name before, so I'm Rob Simpson. I'm Scottish, but I was putting on a Scottish accent, taking the mic out of him, and everybody's roaring with laughter because I hadn't realised they hadn't taken the microphones off me, so everybody can hear me. So I think I made the cutting room floor. But what can you do?
There must be some good clips somewhere then for that. Yeah.
Well, I did ask the BBC if they could send me a copy, and I think it was digital back then, so they would have just erased it. I mean, if it was film, then it's a different kettle of fish. But it's just a question of whether you want to keep something, I wasn't trying to belittle him. I was just, I didn't know who he was, to be quite honest with you. I was just this Scottish man having a moan. So I moaned back at him.
Brilliant. So where do you want to be in the, let's say 5 years time now? Where do you want to be with the business?
Do you know something? Peter Jones asked me the same question when I was on Dragon's Den in 2002, and I said, sitting where you are.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to be sitting where I am, so.
Well, that was my response to Peter Jones, the multimillionaire. Yeah. It's been a very, very, very steep learning curve for me. It's been like 4 steps forward and 3 steps back. Whilst you're making progress, I'd just like it to be from, get it done, sort it. If you think it's such a great idea, put your money where your mouth is. Help me get to where I want to go, and we can get there together. This is my take with Innovate UK, and then what happens after Innovate UK once you've determined all of this. But it's just a question of, I've got a couple of irons in the fires with regards to private equity finance. I would like, best thing in the world for me is to license the IP to somebody like, for argument's sake, if Selector DNA said to me, Robert, we think this is a great idea, but we don't think you're the man selling this. We want to sell it under our own banner. I'd say, how much are you going to give me? And then, or royalty payment schedule, £5 a box, I mean, that's what I'm looking at. I mean, I've tried it myself. I'm not a salesperson. Well, I am a salesperson, but not corporate sales. Yeah. I can't get the figures into the millions, whereas, I can probably sell 250 to a domestic violence charity and go and teach their people how to install them. But, I'd want somebody else to do that and for me to just get the royalties on the 250 sold. Because it is. I mean, it is the disability's been a pain in the backside, literally. I've had several major spinal surgeries, and I was taking a drug called gabapentin for 7 years, which is a neuroinhibitor, which stops pain signals from reaching your brain. And whilst I was on it, it was fantastic. Then they took me off it in 2021, and I've never experienced anything like it. The withdrawal symptoms lasted about 18 months. I've only just recently come out of it, but it was a nightmare. Trying to get stuff.
The what lasted for 18 months, sorry?
The withdrawal symptoms.
Oh, the withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah. So they took me off this drug called gabapentin. And when I started taking it, these are the symptoms you could suffer, by taking this drug. And I've had a crawly skin and vision went a little bit blurry. 2 weeks, 900 milligrams a day for the next 7 years. Come off it, and on my second month of being off it, I just had a total mental health breakdown, which had to include the enhanced primary mental health care unit from Hertfordshire. Wow. I've never experienced a mental lapse in my life, and I've always looked at people like that. When they're telling me they've got mental problems, it's like, oh, shut up, get a grip. And those words will never leave my mouth when speaking to somebody ever again, because I experienced the darkest of the dark. I mean, I won't go into detail, but it was a nightmare. But I just want to, I need another spinal surgery as well. So it's just a question of, I'm trying to, we're juggling. What are we going to do this week? Oh, let's go for a spinal surgery before we sell any forensic alarms. So I just want somebody to sort of say, give that to me, sit back and relax. We'll sort you out.
Yeah.
But,
So what would you you've come a long way. What would looking back on it, if you were to do anything different, what would you do different?
Not turn left down the Guildford Road.
You're right. In 1998. Yeah.
In 1998, things I would have done differently. I don't think I'd do anything differently. It's just a question of you're governed by, especially with this. I mean, it's not like inventing a new paperclip. You can't just go bosh straight out there. You're inventing something which has got legal requirements attached to it. So now you're talking with the CPS and the Crown Prosecution Service. So it's just a question of, it's a great idea. I wish I'd actually spent a lot more money on getting the idea out there, rather than thinking, I can get that done, I can sort that out, and I can generate the revenues, because I've always been a hard worker. I mean, on average, I was fitting for 14 years 4-car telephones a day. So if you work that out on the greatest scheme of things, it's knowing how a car comes apart, any car on the market in that time, and putting it back together again with a phone in it. So I've always been, right, let's just do it. So I've just thought we'd do it, but there's always been someone saying, no, you've got to do this first. No, you've got to do this first. And that's only because of the products and the relations. Like any safety product or crime prevention product, which is going to create a lot of noise, because you don't want to deafen the poor loves when they come breaking into your house. You can't have him running out of that decibel. It's got to be lower ones. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why don't you get something which chucks a flame out at them,
I know. It's like when you hear that they... my son had a motorbike stolen years ago, and the police wouldn't chase him because the person who stole the bike, because they weren't wearing a helmet.
I've been on a police chase in the United States of America. I was at a ride along with the Licking County Sheriff's Department, and we had the same sort of scenario. Knocked him off.
Yeah.
They don't want you running through the streets going 100 mile an hour on a motorbike. So at the end of the day, if you've been stupid enough to nick that bike and you'll be stupid enough not to put a helmet on, then, what they say, mess around and find out.
Yeah.
Words to that effect.
Right. Good. So a lot on your plate still, but you're making progress. You've got Innovate. What advice would you give about to people that are thinking about talking with Innovate Edge and going down that route?
do it. Yeah, at the end of the day, if you think you've got the best idea in the world, but if you speak to an unbiased innovations counsellor who will then talk you through, because what they do is they go away and they do their homework. They go out and they go on the internet and they go out and do their bits and pieces. And they do their due diligence, for argument's sake, because you don't want to be giving money to somebody that can't get IP. Yeah. So speak to them. Put your. It doesn't cost you anything. You know, if they help you, it doesn't cost you a thing. Because what they're looking for is they're looking for UK innovation, which can be manufactured here in the UK and exploited globally. So if you think you've got an idea which performs that criteria, speak to an Innovate UK Edge innovations counsellor, and then you might get assigned a manager who come around your house and be totally wowed by everything you do and go around and do everything for you, like Neville Snell.
Brilliant. Good. Well, it's been a delight talking with you today.
Sorry if I've waffled on.
No, it's been great and fascinating actually to get an insight into your world, but also the world of invasive crime, really, and the forensics. You know, I'd not really known very much about that at all.
I'll tell you what, it is eye opening. I mean, as you say, I went out with my first domestic violence unit. I went out with, and I'm saying, what's domestic violence? What's all that about? Then the police officers tell you what domestic violence is all about. And I'll tell you something that I've said this previously. Stephen King, if he wrote a book or a film, which some of the details that I've been given, you'd think to yourself, you are mad. That would never happen. You know, that is so far off the planet. That isn't. Yeah. It happens on a daily basis. And I'll tell you what, it's more. I mean, I've got no words for the people who perpetrate domestic violence. We're talking about a 6'4" man beating up a 5'3" woman and doing things to her. You think to yourself, hold on a second. And you know, I mean, I've got all the sympathy in the world for the police because it's a big eye opener, you know. But I think people should be given the opportunity to go for ride-alongs and live in the shoes, especially politicians in this country. I'm not going to get political, sorry. Yeah. So they can see the absolute shite, excuse my language, that these people have to, or these police officers have to put up with. Yeah. And it is absolutely disgusting what some of the stories I've listened to. Not only what perpetrated against other human beings, it's mad.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it must have a lasting effect by seeing things like that pretty much day in, day out.
Exactly, yeah. Definitely, I would say.
Yeah. Right, well,
desensitized they call it. They get desensitized, and then all of a sudden, because they've got body-worn cameras on now, people aren't seeing the previous 20 years to see what's happening in those 10 seconds, and they're not taking it into account.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got one final question for you. If you were to be able to ask any business owner one question, who would it be, and what would that question be?
I would like to ask James Brown of Select DNA.
Yeah.
License me IP and put me to.
Brilliant. Well, on that note, we'll hope that James Brown is listening, and we'll send him a link when it's done.
I will.
And so if you're James Brown, or if you're anybody else that really loves what Robert's been talking about today, how should they get hold of you, Robert? And
I mean, if you've got, I mean, I don't mind. Content, if inventors want, I mean, there's links on my website, which is www.rdsi.co.uk. It's, you know, Robert David Simpson in Ideas, or RDS Innovations, and there's an inquiries page there. They can contact me through there. I'm more than happy to engage with people who are looking at ideas to exploit, and that they want a bit of advice. But yeah, I'm here for anybody. But that's it. You can look at Forensic Alarms on Facebook and at Forensic Alarms on
Twitter.
It's not called Twitter anymore. I was going to say X.
Yeah, it's whatever it is. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's old hat at the moment because everything's getting new because of the old Mark 1 not being manufactured anymore. We're now moving into Mark 2. I mean, ideally, we should have got Mark 2 done and dusted before we. But unfortunately, rules dictated.
Yeah. All right.
What
Brilliant.
can you do?
Well, Robert Simpson, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on Scale.
No problems at all, Kevin. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I wish you all the best with the next steps.
Tom, thank you very much, bud. You look after yourself.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.